I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I come from a family of 9, big Catholic family, and like a lot of Catholic families, all the drama and all the color that's involved in that. And I went through the Catholic grammar school system with all the nuns and the Benedictine priests, and then I went on to Catholic high school. And then when it was time to go to college, I went to a University of Western Illinois in Macomb, Illinois. And it had 2 reputations. The football team was the worst in the world, and they drank more beer per student than any other university in North America. And it was like, wow, this is perfect for me. So it was just far enough away from home, about a 4-hour drive, so nobody was going to pop in and visit you without an announcement. And I got my independence. I got to the university there, and I started partying and having a good time. And within 2 years, I just didn't put the work in, and I had to come home. My dad said, hey, let's take a semester off. Let's see if working in my business is going to be a better path for you. And so I came home. My dad owned a drapery store, and he made drapes for Sears. You can imagine in a big workroom, and there's 15 tables, and I was assigned table number 1. I would cut the material, then it would be passed to the next table, and they would hem it, then they'd pass it to the next table, and they would put the lining in it, and then the next table would pleat it, then the next table would fold it, and then the next table would bag it, and then I would watch all day long, the UPS truck coming up, picking up the draperies and taking it off to another happy customer. And my dad had this business. He'd been in business for 20 years making drapes for Sears. Very successful, and he was home every night, and it was open from 9 to 5, and he had all the the factory workers in there, and you didn't talk to anybody all day. It was interacting with inanimate objects, and my grandma was 70 years old. His mother was kind of ran operations, and I tell you, I did it for a couple of months, 4 or 5 months, and I was like, oh, this is not the path that I want. And it was on Easter of 1977 where I met the man that was going to take my life in a whole new direction. And I was looking out the window. All our family members were looking out the window on Easter, big party. Everybody's having a great time. And this blue Lincoln Continental pulls up the driveway, 1977, brand new, the color of my tie. And I couldn't even see who was driving. I'm looking, who's driving that car? And out jumped this fella who had a suit on that was the same color as the car. So if you can imagine, the exterior and the interior of the car was the same color, and a suit the same color. Now, this is 1977, highly fashionable at the time. And he walked up and he says, "I'm Jim." And I said, "Hey, Jim, I'm Joe." And he goes, "Yeah, I'm your uncle, and I'm married to your aunt." And, oh yeah, and we started talking. I go, "What do you do for a living?" He goes, "Oh, I'm in the real estate business." He says, "Let me correct you. The real estate business is in me. I'm not in the real estate business." I said, "Oh, wow." And he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm working with my dad in the drapery business." And as I said it, I realized that it wasn't in me. It was in my dad, but it wasn't in me. And Jim, it was in him. And I could see the passion. And I could see the excitement of when something was really in you. So I said, "Well, tell me about this." So he started to describe to me how he helped people buy and sell homes, and the amount of money that it was possible, and how few young people were in it, that if I got into it, I could really soar. And I got excited. And I said, "How do I do it?" And he goes, "Well, go take the test." And he says, "It's easy as filling out an application. You send in a check for $60, and you get 3 chances at it, and then you get your license." So, unbeknownst to my dad, I went and got the application, filled it in, and I took it 3 times, exercised all my options there. And on the 3rd time that the envelope came, I looked at it, I go, "It passed." I was so excited. And I remember sitting down with my dad. I said, "Hey, Dad, I've decided that I'm going to go to work with Jim Wessel, and I'm going to sell real estate." And he was so disappointed. It was one of those moments that I think I crushed him, because it was his dream to see his oldest son take over his business. And he was like, "Joey, I love you so much. You'll probably amount to nothing, but go do what you have to do." And it was my first motivational talk. And I thought, I'm going to show you, Dad. I'm going to make something of myself. And I went to work with Jim. Jim said, "Attach yourself to my hip. I'm going to teach you how to work." And boy, did he teach me how to work. We worked, anywhere from 10 to 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. At the end of the first year, I was one of the top agents in our board. Is one of the top rookies. I was Rookie of the Year. I helped like 33, 34 families buy a house that year. I made $45,000. I was excited, but I was also burnt out because Jim worked all the time. There was no downtime. It was up early to bed late. We'd be eating meals late. We started, having drinks and cocktails at late into the night. And I'm 22 years old now. I'm about 25 pounds overweight, feeling a little bit fried, not really certain where I'm going to go with this. And I was comparing it to my dad, and my dad had a system that was running his business. This was all personality based. It was like really how hard could you work, not how good could your system work. So I started to reevaluate a little bit, like what am I going to do, and started to look for a better way. And that's the starting point for all shift, looking for a better way. And I met a guy named Rick, and Rick called me into his office. He said, "Hey, Joe, I love Jim, and I make about twice as much money as Jim, and I work half the amount of time." I go, "Well, how do you do that?" And he goes, "Well, I've got a for sale by owner system. I got an expired listing system. I have a system to show buyers homes." And he kept on using that word system. And I just kept on thinking, that's what my dad has, is he has a system. So Rick took me under his wing, shared with me what his secrets were. I followed and copied his methods. I doubled my sales. I started to work far less, and I started to really enjoy the business. And Rick said, "Boy, wouldn't it be nice if you could teach this to some of the people in the office?" And I said, "I'd love to." Because remember, my mom's a school teacher. My dad's an entrepreneur. My mom always wanted me to teach school. My dad always wanted me to have my own business, and it was a nice combination. I'm in my own business, and I'm teaching the people in our office. And we started to have some success. And some of the agents I was helping out were starting to produce more. And Rick gave me an incentive. He says, "For every transaction they do, I'm going to give you a little bonus." And I started making more money from the bonuses from the other agents who were in my training than I was actually from my own production. And that got exciting. But the real shift came when a man from the Tom Hopkins company came in to sell us tickets to a seminar. So we're all in the conference room, and he's making this presentation. And Rick was sitting next to me, and Rick turned to me and says, "You'd be good at that." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "See what that guy is doing? You'd be good at that." And I started to watch this guy present the Tom Hopkins program. And afterwards, I walked up to him. I said, "Boy, tell me about what you do." And he goes, I go around and I help people enroll into the Tom Hopkins event. And I said, "I think I'd be pretty good at this." And he goes, "Well, why don't you call Mike and tell him?" So I called up Mike. I said, "Hey, Mike, I talked to Jerry." That was the guy who was doing the presentation. He said I should call you. I think I'd be pretty good at that. So I met with Mike. Mike, after our interview, goes, "I think you'd be pretty good at this." So it just goes to show you that just those subtle words from Rick, I think you'd be good at that. The right words from the right person at the right time can change your destiny. And I slowly over time, I started to leave the real estate business and go to work for Tom Hopkins. And I was invited to move to Southern California, where I could take a bigger role after some initial success. I got out to Southern California, and I really got excited about the whole seminar business.